you've enjoyed about marriage that was unexpected. A lot of people are asking if we're trying for a baby. Breakup advice, how long we plan to stay in our new home. Have you guys ever thought about getting another dog? How do you keep anxiety at bay in the midst of a lot of challenge? And I've been diagnosed with some things that are very rare. And so to be honest, I have a lot of fear. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It has been a long time since we have chatted, so I felt like a Q&A was very fitting. I'm realizing this is the first sit down video I'm doing in our new home, in our new room. Like, I'm trying to figure out the lighting and the setup and everything. But would it be one of my Q&As if we didn't sit on my bed? Like, I've done it since the beginning and we have to keep doing it. I thought about switching it up, but I really love it. It gives the cozy vibes. Per usual, I asked you guys on my Instagram if you had any questions or anything that you wanted to ask, since we haven't caught up in a very long time. If you want to have an opportunity to ask me a question in the next Q&A, just be sure to be following me over on Instagram. I have really been trying to post more on there. I've been posting a ton of reels. We did Vlogmas, which is where I posted every single day, which was so fun. Definitely go follow me over there. Also, before we dive into this, I was looking at my analytics, and guys, 50% of you that consistently watch my videos aren't subscribed. It would mean so much to me if you would subscribe. This is my job, so it is really helpful if you guys subscribe to my channel. It helps you know when I post a new video and it just pops up on your feed. That would mean a lot to me if you would subscribe if you watch my videos. But before we get started, you probably want to grab a drink or a snack or something, because I tend to talk a lot. So with all that being said, let's hop right into it. Have you guys ever thought about getting another dog? We have 2 Goldens and it's fun but crazy. I would love another dog. Sam does not want another dog. I don't know if I'd want another Golden. I just can't imagine having another 100-pound dog running around. So I'd probably get a smaller dog, but to be completely honest, I don't really typically love the personality of smaller dogs. My best friend's family always had beagles growing up, and I loved their dogs, so I would kind of love a beagle. I don't know what we would do, but we probably won't anytime soon because Sam does not want a second dog. I love this question. It says, newlywed advice, I just got married. Well, congrats. I still feel like I'm somewhat of a newlywed. We've been married a little over 2.5 years, but I feel like it's been enough time to where, like, we know our relationship and our routine as a married couple, and it doesn't feel as new anymore. I feel like there are so many things that could be said, but my best advice would be pay attention to the patterns you're creating. I say this because this is what I'm currently working on, but I feel like in the first year of marriage, you're establishing all new patterns because you're learning to live together and you're learning how to navigate life together when you're used to doing it separately. So it's very easy to create negative patterns, right? Negative thought views of your husband, or even just like a negative attitude towards his job, his whatever. So I think it's very important to think about what you're thinking about and realize what patterns you're creating. I created a negative pattern, and so I had to take the time, the energy, and the effort to turn it into a positive one. So I say that if I could go back to our first year or 2 of marriage, like just paying attention to what negative things I was starting to think as we were creating our new life. I hope that makes sense. And I know that's very like niche and small. I feel like that would be very helpful and something that I wish I had paid attention to. This question is very relevant to our life right now. It says, how do you find good Christian friends to be around? And I love you. Aw, thank you. That's so sweet. I love you too. We just moved from Georgia to Tennessee. It felt like we had established our friends in Georgia. We were so close to so many people, and then we moved. And so we're starting over all over again. And so we are in the midst of like trying to find friends again and creating community. And the best advice I have is to just put yourself out there. That can be really hard, especially if you're more introverted or maybe you're really insecure in public situations. But community has to be forged. It doesn't just like appear in your lap, especially as adults or like young adults. It's really hard to make friends and you have to put yourself out there. So that can look like multiple different things depending on what you're comfortable with. So me and Sam love people. So we are people, but that doesn't mean it's easy to like put yourself in a social situation. I still don't really look forward to doing something for the first time or meeting people for the first time, if I'm just being honest. For us, we love love small groups. We love being known and knowing other people and having opportunity to be vulnerable and be real. So right now we're currently looking for small groups. Since she said Christian community, I'm assuming you're plugged into a church. If you're not plugged into a church, that's absolutely the first step into finding Christian community. I think that's just the easiest way. If you just look at probability, right, you're probably gonna find Christian friends there more likely than at the grocery store. Serving is a great opportunity to meet people that are doing the same thing and could potentially be passionate about the same thing. If you're serving in kids, you know, you might find a friend in there that also loves to help out with kids. Or if you're serving in tech, you might be able to relate with someone that also likes tech stuff or music stuff or whatever. I think you have to be willing to put in the work, and then additionally being patient, because it takes time. I remember when we were in Atlanta, that first year was really hard. Like, I was involved in small groups and I was doing the work, but I wasn't really feeling like we had community. But it just took time. It takes time for relationships to develop and for trust to be built. Now, there's some relationships that, like, right off the bat, you're like, wow, we definitely are friends. And then some are slow burns, and that's okay. So just being patient through that. And I'm talking to myself because that's what we're experiencing right now. Okay, this is a fun question. Somebody asked, what's something you've enjoyed about marriage that was unexpected? Sleeping together, like in the same bed. Like, when Sam is gone, I get sad, like sleeping alone. Kind of weird. I didn't expect that. I actually dreaded the idea of sharing a bed with somebody. I like my space, but we do have a king size bed, which really does help with that. But it's really nice, like, just always having somebody there, which I didn't expect. I love this question. It says, how do you keep anxiety at bay in the midst of a lot of challenge / being out of a routine? I feel like I haven't talked about my anxiety as much as I did in the past a few years ago, but I definitely struggle with fear, change, unknown, all the above. The only thing that helps me with anxiety that's produced from really anything, but especially from change or, you know, making a decision, a big decision, whatever, is really trusting and believing that God is in control and that He works all things for the good of those who love Him according to His will. And that verse is what I cling to. I have to believe that God is working all things for my good, and I don't get to define good. Only God gets to define good. And if I look back in my life and see the things that I would have said, this isn't good, like what's going on in my life right now, I would not define as good. Now, years later, I can see how God worked that out for my good and for His glory. And so when I am feeling anxious or overwhelmed, I just have to go to the Lord, number one, and say, God, I trust that You are in control. Like, I believe, but also help my unbelief, because clearly I don't believe. You know what I mean? Like, it's that weird dynamic of, like, my flesh is screaming, crying. I was about to say throwing up. That's but really, like, my flesh is so anxious. But Lord, Your Holy Spirit in me, please remind me of what is true and give me peace that surpasses all understanding. That makes no sense according to my circumstances, but that's who You are. And I have that power in me. And I have the truth and the knowledge to know that You are good. Help me believe that. And it's just constant surrender is the best thing that I can tell you. It's a daily thing that I have to constantly go to the Lord and be like, remind me that You're good. This question said, I need birth control tips. Getting married in June and don't know what to do. Well, first of all, I'm not a doctor, so take anything I say with a grain of salt. I'm not really telling you or advising you what to do. I'll just tell you what I did and what I learned from it. How about that? Before we got married, I got on the pill, and about a year into our marriage, I decided to get off of it for multiple reasons. I didn't have any major side effects or negative reactions like a lot of girls do. I just decided to get off of it because I was having other health issues, and I didn't want as many variables as there were, and that's a variable when you're on a medication, especially birth control. You're not even having a real period. Like, it just is, you're taking synthetic hormones. So I was like, I need to get off this. So I got off of it. I didn't even really notice any major effects or anything. But I definitely have gone more natural routes, and that's what I prefer personally. I do think that is, in my opinion, best. I think birth control is messing us up more than we could ever realize, meaning like synthetic hormones and things like that. We do as natural as we can. I love Natural Cycles. It's an app where you take your temperature in the morning, and based off of your temperature, it will let you know when you're ovulating and when you're not, and it's amazing. I got their like better thermometer, and it's also really good because it syncs right to your phone whenever you open up the app. because you have to take it whenever you first wake up. So that's just my experience. I love natural cycles, but you know, there's understanding that if you don't use it perfectly, there is that risk. I think me and Sam have always been open to that risk. We knew like that the risk of being sexually active is having a kid. I would look into it yourself and really figure out what you and your fiance are comfortable with. One of the most asked questions is, when is our timeline for kids, especially since we've moved to Tennessee and closer to my family? A lot of people thought we moved to Tennessee because I was pregnant, which is funny because I wasn't. We still don't really have a timeline, but we're actively discussing like what does that look like for us to start trying for a family. And I'm sorry I keep alluding to it. I try not to talk about it because it's so annoying when people allude to something but then like don't talk about it. But I have had a lot of health issues, and a lot of them have been in that area. And I've been diagnosed with some things that are very, very rare. And so to be honest, I have a lot of fear surrounding having a baby because I don't know how that will affect me, and they don't have the research for it. So it's one of those things that like I really have to trust the Lord with, and I don't know what that will look like. I don't want to go into anything with fear. And again, like I need to talk to myself about the truth I just told you about trusting that God will work all things for my good and for his glory, and he gets to define what is good, and not living in fear about it. I'm working through that, to be completely honest, vulnerable, and transparent. I've gotten a lot of questions as well if I will talk more about my health issues. I definitely plan to. I know I've said that a lot. Probably sooner rather than later, now that I'm kind of over the major hump, especially the emotional toll it took on me. Like I can actually talk about it without crying now, which was not the case probably a year ago. I'm just waiting for a proper time to share that story because it is quite a long story. This is a funhouse question. It says, what's the thing you're most looking forward to in renovating your home? I wouldn't say we're renovating, we're just maybe doing projects, like adding on to the home, but not like adding rooms. The one I'm most excited about is we're going to be creating a coffee bar in the kitchen where the pantry currently is. It's this huge long pantry that is not really an efficient amount of space. So we're going to be adding some cabinets on the bottom, open shelves on the top, a new counter space, and then have a cabinet pantry rather than like a whole pantry room, which I'm really excited for. We're going to be starting that soon. It's just a big project, and so whenever we do that, we'll actually be adding new countertops to the entire kitchen. I'm very excited to do that very soon. This is a really good question as well. It says, how do you communicate your needs with Sam without making it seem like criticism? I think I've learned that it's really important, if you ever have something that has been bothering you or hurting you or whatever it may be, to not bring it up right when it happens. I'm just gonna come up with a really petty example, but like, let's just say Sam has been leaving his dishes in the sink when the dishwasher is dirty and he could just put them in there, right? And if he goes to go set his dishes in the sink and I immediately snap at him and say, Sam, I'm getting so sick of you putting your dishes in the sink. The dishwasher's dirty, put them in the dishwasher. In that moment, he's more likely to get extremely defensive, and it's gonna feel like out of nowhere to him because he probably didn't even realize that he's doing that, right? But we've been noticing it, or I've been noticing it. So I think I've learned that it's best to address it out of the situation. So to say, hey babe, can I talk to you for a second? Whether it's over dinner or whatever, and then I would say like, there's something that's been bothering me, but I wanted to tell you so that you can know what's been bothering me. Notice that sometimes you put your dishes in the sink rather than in the dishwasher, and I'm consistently having to do that when it would just be so much easier if you would just do it yourself. It's gonna be more likely not taken as criticism in the moment. Now it's up to him to receive that well, right? But I think creating an environment that it is best taken well is the best thing you can do rather than in the moment. So somebody asked, does having a niece and a nephew make you have baby fever? So yes and no. Definitely more. Like now that my siblings have kids, it's like, wow, this is exciting. It makes me want one more for sure. But at the same time, it almost like cures my like baby fix because I get to be around kids. If you didn't know, I have a niece. Her name's JoJo. She's about 1 and 3 months, 4 months. And then my other brother and sister-in-law actually just had their baby in December. So we have a sweet baby newborn boy named James in the family, which is so fun to see and to have around. Someone asked, what do you miss most from Atlanta? Clearly our friends. Like that has been so hard and sad, and I miss them, and I miss our routines and our conversations and just everything. But outside of community and the obvious answer, I feel like we really miss the food, like so much. The fun restaurants, always having something new to try. That's mine and Sam's like favorite thing to do for a date night, is to try new food. And Knoxville it just doesn't have the same kind of things. Now, clearly we knew that, and we knew that that would probably be the #1 thing we missed, and it definitely is. Okay, this is a good question. It says, did you go on trips with Sam before marriage? If so, how did you maintain purity? So me and Sam did not have sex before marriage. We did not sleep in the same bed before marriage. Like, we actively fled anything that looked like sexual immorality in dating. And so that looked like us not going on trips together, which was really sad. It was something that we really desired to do, but we never stayed the same place overnight, like somewhere outside of like our long distance relationship, because we would be alone. So we were never alone because Sam had roommates. I also had roommates. And you know what? I don't regret that. I think that's a very wise decision. I'm very proud that we did that. And it was definitely hard. Like, one time we really wanted to go to the beach together while I think we were dating or engaged. Were we engaged? I think we were actually just dating. We drove from Atlanta to the beach. So it was about 4 or 5 hours. We're at the beach for a day and drove back that night. It's hard, it's frustrating, but I just think it's wise to not, because you're really putting yourself in a sticky situation. Now, we did go to the beach with my family one time, but we had accountability. Like, we were around other people, so we didn't have the opportunity to be staying together alone in the same room. It's frustrating, but trust me, it's worth it. It makes it all the more special when you're married. Wow, I've surprisingly had a lot of questions about breakup advice. So I'm sorry that a lot of you guys are going through a breakup. I've experienced that, and a lot of them actually said, like, I'm hurting and I'm even the one that broke it off. Just because you broke it off does not mean it's not hard. I was only in one relationship prior to Sam, and I'm the one that broke it off, and it was hard. It was hard because I didn't want to, but I did what I knew I needed to. Hold on, Sam's calling.
Did you get my text?
No, my phone's on Do Not Disturb because I'm filming. What was I saying? Breakups are really hard no matter if you broke it off or not. I think the thing that I see the most with girls, and that either my friends or people I've talked to, like, they hang on to the idea of this person, right? Either that they're gonna get back together, or, you know, they knew it was bad, but it was comfortable, whatever. If you knew that, like, that relationship needed to end and you broke it off, then you need to, like, move on completely from that idea. You know, I think especially Christian girls, I feel like we hold on to the idea that, like, well, maybe they'll become stronger in the Lord, or maybe they'll do this, maybe. No. Like, if they do, great, and if the Lord has that, then, like, he will bring that to you, is the safest option and the best way to move on, in my opinion. Also, be okay with the idea that it does take a long time to get over somebody, and that's okay. And I think it's really healthy to actively try to move on and not just dive into the next relationship or whatever. So surround yourself with good friends, and if you need to, you can block them on social media, which I know seems really petty, but, like, don't do it in a petty way, or, you know, hide their stories or whatever. But don't continually see them, don't text them, don't talk to them, otherwise you're not going to move on, which I know is really hard, but speaking from personal experience, that's just what needs to happen. And really lean into your friends and into the Lord, and also into the fact that it just takes time. It just takes time to, you know, get used to not having that person in your life, and, you know, creating new patterns and new rhythms, because it's really, really hard, and I get that. That's so funny. Someone said, how do you deal with all the golden glitter? Oh my gosh, I need to call it that. I think she's referring to the shedding, and it's terrible. I vacuum like twice a day and I still don't get it, which is wild. But they're worth it. They're the best dogs, and it doesn't bother me too much. I do my best to keep up with it, and I generally do. Between me and Sam, we usually vacuum a lot. So a lot of people are wondering how long we plan to stay in our new home. We don't really have a plan. We definitely sold our other home fast, meaning we were in it for like 2 years, which isn't very long. We were ready to move, and so that's what you gotta do. But this house, we definitely plan to stay in it longer than the last, but we don't know how long. It's definitely not our forever home, but it's definitely a home that we can expand into, which our other home wasn't as much. It was very small. This house, we have the rooms and the space to grow into, which was our plan. But truly, that's where all my jeans are from. What are some things you've been struggling with recently? Some struggles I've had, I think, are knowing, like, what my future holds. I think just with like my career and how to balance that with having kids in the future and just knowing that that's approaching and what does that look like is probably the biggest thing I'm struggling with. Where I want to take my job or how I want to take it or whatever. I think is the biggest thing that I've been wrestling through with the Lord, with Sam, with me and my job, like just a lot of conversations around that. And it's been some tough conversations that I don't have any answers to, and it kind of feels overwhelming. I think those are all the questions for this Q&A. I've been filming for an hour. This video will definitely not be an hour, so I have to cut some things out. Per usual, that's how things go when I talk to a camera. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to stay tuned. I've got lots of fun videos coming up, like us making this house a home and decorating and creating and all the fun things. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this felt like a good life update and catch up. I love you guys. Be sure to stick around and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.